struggle with having consistent routines and rituals around your self-care, around your spiritual exploration, around your erotic embodiment. I know that this is an incredibly common thing. I hear it all the time, and I have gone through chapters of my journey where it has been a major struggle for me to stay consistent with things that I absolutely know are good for me, right? We know that. We don't necessarily need to be sold on the benefit of consistent meditation or contemplation or moving our bodies or touching ourselves. There's often a mental buy-in that we come to this with, and if anything, we can weaponize it against ourselves and beat ourselves up for not being as consistent as we would like to be. So I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about what has worked for me, offering it as a seed of inspiration for you. Because certainly this is something that when I run groups and we're, whether that's a workshop or an ongoing program or something, the rituals and the routines that we establish are often the things that people are most delighted by, that they feel most grateful for, having a dedicated space and time to do those very things that they know are helpful. Because the reality is many of us left to our own devices, we struggle. We struggle with our time management. We struggle with having enough energy to go around. We struggle to make sure that we are getting the consistency that we need, and then we beat ourselves up. And we live in a world where time and energy and attention are precious resources that many of us are struggling to wield well. So let's first start with some compassion around that. And the other thing then that I want to invite that you can start with is really getting curious about what are the elements of a personal practice that would be most meaningful for you. Something that I have experienced over decades of spiritual seeking, sitting with different teachers and different, whether that's, gurus and swamis and monks, or this somatics teacher or this embodiment coach or whatever it is. And everybody's got their style, their way, their selection. I am pretty polyamorous in my way of taking things from different practices and making them my own. And the things that I know are really important to me is that I do need both movement and stillness. I absolutely benefit from a focus on breath. So some form of a concerted breath work or even just a rhythmic breathing that helps me to regulate my nervous system, super important before I go into anything. I really love listening to guided meditations, and I've gotten very particular about whose guidance I want to hear over years of experimenting with that. So I've got my go-tos, and I love to journal. So my daily practice involves me doing some stretching, some moving, some really connecting to my body through the felt sense, feeling into where there's tightness, where there's relaxation, where do I need support, where do I want movement to happen. I start there, and then I sit down and I do some breathing. And once I've spent some time breathing, I do a little time in a quiet, seated, contemplative practice, sometimes on my own, often with guidance. And when that's done, there's usually some chanting, some spoken prayer, some spontaneous song channeling through. So that's another movement expression of energy. I follow that up by pulling cards from my chosen decks and doing a little bit of writing about what those messages mean to me and how I want to carry them into my day. The beautiful thing about this daily ritual for me is that I can extend it or truncate it when I need to. But as long as I get even 20 minutes, if not an hour or whenever it might be that I aspire to, it unequivocally sets me off on the right foot for the day ahead. So that's a little bit about my personal practice. The way I stay consistent with it is that it is a morning practice for me. I know that I need to start my day with that, because if I tell myself, oh, I'll do that at 11 a.m. in between these two appointments because it was a busy day, like that seldom ends up happening for me. So I've learned that given my biorhythms and given my energy levels, doing that first thing is where I go. And you get to find out for yourself, like what time of day, what will you be consistent with, what will be most nourishing for you. So I hope there's something in there that helps you to orient toward how you might create a routine and a ritual for yourself that really includes the things that are nourishing to you, because goodness knows with all that is utterly chaotic and crazy and challenging about life, which is both nothing new and not going away anytime soon, we need these practices woven into our day in and day out in order to keep showing up. I wish you well. And if you have any questions or you want to follow up with me about that, please be in touch. And I would love to offer you some guidance. Take care.